You
don't
can't
belong
just
here.
stand
Get out
here.
of this ballroom immediately.
Guests only. The words sliced through the music like a shard of glass. Heads turned. A string quartet faltered mid-note. In the glow of chandeliers, a woman in silver heels pointed across the gala floor, her voice trembling with indignation, not fear.
Tonight, we speak the truth.
At the end of that finger stood Naomi
I'll
Ellis,
be here to support you every
poised,
step of the way.
silent,
Thank you.
wearing a sleek
This means
black
everything
gown
to
that
me.
caught the
Look
light
around
like
this room.
obsidian.
1 year later,
She
we have
didn't
proven that
flinch.
healing is possible.
Not once.
Horizon Estate is truly
Before we
reborn.
continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Naomi. The ballroom was a study in wealth. Marble floors, champagne towers, and polished smiles hiding sharper tongues. It was the annual Horizon Foundation Gala, hosted in the same historic estate Naomi had quietly purchased a week earlier. But tonight she came without her team, without the title that usually announced her arrival before she even spoke. Tonight she was here as an observer, invisible on purpose. A server brushed past, handing her a tray of half-empty glasses. "Take these back to the kitchen, please." He didn't look at her, just moved on. Naomi blinked once, slow. Around her, laughter rippled like perfume in the air. Sweet, artificial, suffocating. She set the tray down gently, each glass chiming like a restrained heartbeat. At the far table, the event coordinator, Laura Dean, watched, lips curling. "Staff really need better uniforms this year," she murmured to a guest beside her. Then louder, "Excuse me, service doesn't linger at donor tables." The room quieted. Naomi turned her head, calm and deliberate. Her eyes found Laura's, steel meeting smoke. "I'm not serving," she said softly. Laura laughed. "Then why are you here?" No one breathed. Somewhere the violin resumed, off-key, hesitant. Naomi's fingers brushed the side of her dress, steadying herself. The insult wasn't new. It was ritual. She'd seen it in banks, airports, boardrooms. Always the same tone, the same disbelief wrapped in politeness. She took a slow breath. Maybe to see how people behave when they think no one important is watching. A man at the nearby table chuckled under his breath. "Someone's dramatic," Laura's eyes narrowed. "Security's right outside," she warned. "Don't make this difficult." Naomi didn't move. "I never do." A young intern by the dessert bar, Maya Brooks, name tag crooked, nerves alive, lifted her phone halfway, then lowered it. Something inside her said this matters. Naomi's calm was unnerving. Even Laura's voice faltered for a moment. "Look," she said, her tone turning sharp again. "If you want to work these events, talk to catering. Don't embarrass yourself." The audience of donors half smiled, pretending not to listen. But they were listening. The silence between each sentence stretched like silk about to tear. Naomi looked at her, voice even. "Embarrassment only exists when you've done something wrong." Laura blinked, confused, sensing she'd lost control but not knowing why. In that instant, Naomi's phone buzzed, one vibration, a quiet signal. Her assistant's text glowed briefly on screen. "Board connected. System ready." Naomi's lips barely curved. The night had just begun. The gala's laughter returned, softer now, as if embarrassed by itself. Naomi stood motionless, her shadow stretching long across the marble floor. The insult still hung in the air like perfume that refused to fade. Laura Dean turned away, satisfied, whispering something to a waiter who nodded quickly. The message was clear. Keep an eye on that woman. Naomi picked up a glass of water, sipped once, and placed it back untouched. Her eyes wandered, not aimlessly but with purpose. Every corner of the ballroom was a system she had studied for years. The donors, the investors, the board members who believed this night belonged to them. The irony? It already belonged to her. Near the stage, a man in a navy tux leaned toward another and murmured, "That woman." Staff walked in through the side door. They laughed quietly. Naomi heard every word. She'd heard it before. In airports, boardrooms, even at conferences she financed herself. Every version of the same lie. "You don't belong here." Her phone buzzed again. A short message appeared on the lock screen. "Carmen. Press ready. Confirm start?" Naomi typed one word, "Not yet," because she didn't want revenge served cold. She wanted it served clearly. Across the room, Maya Brooks still watched. The intern's heart raced, the phone camera low by her side. The light from the chandeliers caught Naomi's skin, turning calm into radiance. Maya whispered under her breath, "She's not just some guest." At that moment, the band switched tempo. The violins softened into a slower waltz. Waiters moved like chess pieces through the crowd, clearing plates, topping champagne. The host announced the next segment, the charity auction. Naomi's gaze shifted to the stage. The same stage that minutes later she would use to rewrite the entire story. Laura reappeared, clipboard in hand, smiling wide for donors. She brushed past Naomi again, her perfume sharp, voice sugar-coated. "Sorry for earlier," she said without meaning it. "You looked so professional, I just assumed." Naomi smiled faintly. "You assumed right." Laura blinked, unsure what that meant. Naomi's calm wasn't silence, and it was strategy. Behind every blink, a memory replayed. She remembered Atlanta years ago. 26 in her first startup suit. The hotel receptionist had taken one look and said, "Deliveries go around back." She went home that night, wrote the business plan for Ellis Global Properties. It grew into an empire. Now standing in the same pattern of humiliation, she felt no anger, only confirmation that the world hadn't changed enough. But she had. The lights dimmed for the auction. The host took the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, a quick announcement from the management team." Laura stepped toward the stage, ready to perform her moment. Naomi watched her, perfectly still, her phone in hand. Carmen's message appeared again. "Carmen. Board members online. Waiting for your go." Naomi inhaled slowly. She glanced toward Maya. Their eyes met for a brief second, the silent kind of understanding that doesn't need words. Then Naomi typed back, "Prepare the files." The storm wasn't coming. It was already here, quiet, controlled, waiting for her signal. "Miss," I said, "step back." The words cracked through the air louder than the orchestra. Naomi hadn't moved. She was standing near the donor tables, her calm presence somehow louder than Laura Dean's command. Every head nearby turned. The violins faltered again, one note bending off key. Laura stormed closer, her heels clicking like a countdown. "This area is reserved for VIPs, she barked, louder now, trying to reclaim the authority slipping from her. "You need to return to the service corridor, now." Naomi's eyes didn't waver. "Is that how you speak to your guests?" Laura scoffed. "To guests, no. To staff pretending to be guests? Absolutely." The laughter that followed wasn't cruel. It was cowardly. The kind that hides in crowds. Naomi tilted her head slightly. "Pretending? Look," Laura continued, exasperated. "I don't know how you slipped in, but this is a private event. The catering team has uniforms. You're not in one, so either step aside or—" Naomi finished her sentence for her. "Or what?" Laura blinked, thrown off by the softness of it. "Or I'll have to call security." Across the room, Maya Brooks flinched. Her phone was still recording, hands trembling. A man beside her whispered, "Why's she being so rude?" Another replied, "Because she thinks she can." Naomi's fingers rested on the edge of a nearby table, a single diamond ring catching the light. Her voice calm as ever. "You should make that call. Sometimes it's the fastest way to find out who really owns the place." Laura froze, just long enough for the crowd to feel the shift. Then she laughed, brittle and high. "Wow, confident, aren't we?" Naomi said nothing. She simply reached for a champagne flute from the tray nearby, turned it in her hand and placed it back, perfectly aligned, as if restoring order to a table she already controlled. A waiter hesitated between them, unsure whether to intervene. "Ma'am?" he asked quietly to Laura. "Maybe let it go." Laura hissed through her teeth. "Do your job." Then to Naomi, "I don't care what stunt you're trying to pull, but this ends now." The temperature in the ballroom seemed to drop. Guests shifted uncomfortably, pretending not to see yet unable to look away. Naomi finally spoke, her tone so even it chilled the room. "You keep saying staff, uniform, and service, as if those words make you safer. But they don't." Laura crossed her arms, defensive. "Excuse me?" "You're not protecting the event," Naomi said softly. "You're protecting your bias." A single gasp came from the back of the hall. It wasn't loud, but it was enough. Someone murmured, "She's right." Laura's cheeks flushed red. "Get out of my face before I have you escorted." Naomi didn't step closer, but her words did. "You can't escort what you don't control." Laura turned sharply toward a security guard near the door. "Ryan, now!" The guard hesitated, glancing between them. What's the issue? She's not supposed to be here, Laura said quickly. She's staff gone rogue or Naomi cut in, calm and razor sharp. Finish that sentence carefully. For the first time, Laura's voice cracked. I don't need to justify myself to... You just did, Naomi said. The silence that followed was electric. Even the chandeliers seemed to hum. Maya's camera light flickered faintly as she whispered, "Oh my God." Naomi straightened her shoulders, her voice low but steady. You've made 3 assumptions tonight, all wrong, but the last one will cost you. Laura's eyes darted toward the stage, toward the donors watching. The power she'd built on tone and posture was dissolving, and she felt it. Naomi's phone buzzed again. One final message from Carmen. Audit live. Board recording. Naomi didn't look down. She didn't need to. She already knew. Security appeared at the edge of the crowd. 2 men in black suits, cautious but uncertain. They hadn't heard the full story. Only the echo of authority in Laura's voice. She's not supposed to be here, Laura said quickly, gesturing toward Naomi like a conductor trying to summon control. Remove her, please. The taller guard hesitated. Ma'am, what's the situation? Laura's tone sharpened. I just told you. She's staff impersonating a guest. Naomi didn't turn. She didn't even blink. Her gaze remained fixed on the champagne glass she'd set down minutes earlier. Every reflection on that glass, Laura's trembling hand, the guards' uneasy faces, the curious donors, told her the same story. They were all waiting to see what she'd do. Naomi finally spoke. I'd like to hear that again. For the record, Laura frowned. What? You're accusing me, Naomi said softly. Of being what exactly? Of trespassing, Laura snapped. You're not a donor, not a guest, and you're disrupting this event. Naomi's voice was measured, deliberate. And what if you're wrong? Laura crossed her arms, her laughter brittle. Then I'll apologize. But I'm not wrong. Across the ballroom, Maya Brooks held her phone higher now. The red recording light glowed like a pulse in the dark. The guests could see it, but no one stopped her. Something about this moment felt too big to interrupt. Naomi took a single step forward. The security guards tensed, expecting protest. Instead, she reached into her clutch, slow, controlled, and pulled out her phone. The taller guard's hand hovered near his earpiece. Ma'am, let's not... Naomi raised her hand slightly. Relax, I'm not here to make trouble. Then, tapping her screen once, she said calmly into the mic, Carmen, mark timestamp 0. Begin recording. Horizon Gala live audit. Verbal confirmation. On the other end, Carmen's voice carried through the ballroom speaker. Crisp. Authoritative. Confirmed. Audit initiated. Live stream secure. A ripple moved through the crowd. Heads turned. Whispered questions spread like wildfire. Laura's face drained of color. What is this? Naomi's gaze lifted, quiet as a verdict. Accountability. The shorter guard stepped back instinctively, eyes flicking between them. Ms. Dean, he said softly, maybe we should... No, Laura snapped, desperate now. This is my event, and I... Naomi interrupted her with a simple phrase. It's not your event anymore. The sentence landed heavy like the slow roll of thunder before a storm breaks. She turned slightly, scanning the room. You wanted me gone. But before that happens, everyone deserves context. Laura tried to speak, but her voice stumbled over the silence. Naomi continued. 15 minutes ago, you told me to return to the kitchen. You told others I wasn't a guest. And just now you accused me of trespassing. So I want you to say it clearly. What made you so sure I didn't belong here? The question lingered, unanswered, no one breathed. A waiter in the corner froze mid-step. Maya whispered, say it. Say it out loud. Laura's lips parted, but no words came. Naomi nodded slowly, the smallest, saddest smile forming. That's what I thought. Then, into her phone again. Carmen, verify acquisition records for Horizon Estate. Date signed last Friday. Carmen's voice echoed, unwavering. Verified. Primary owner? Dr. Naomi Ellis, CEO of Ellis Global Properties. The sound hit harder than any shout could. Every head turned. Every whisper stopped. Even the chandeliers seemed to still. Laura staggered back half a step, disbelief flooding her face. You're the... Naomi looked directly at her. The one you tried to escort out of her own gala. And for the first time all evening, Laura had no power left in her voice. For a heartbeat, the ballroom froze. Even the music forgot its cue. Then the whispers began and soft, unsure, like wind before a storm. Did she just say, "See show? No way. She owns the venue?" Dozens of faces turned toward Naomi, each one reflecting a different version of disbelief. Some embarrassed, some intrigued, some suddenly respectful. The same people who'd looked through her minutes ago were now seeing her for the first time. Naomi didn't move. She didn't need to. Stillness was her armor. Laura Dean blinked rapidly, color draining from her face. This is a misunderstanding," she stammered, voice trembling. "I didn't know who you were." Naomi cut her off gently, not with anger, but precision. "That's the point, isn't it? You didn't need to know who I was to decide what I wasn't." The words hung there, sharp and quiet. Maya Brooks swallowed hard behind her phone, eyes wide. The recording light flickered red, catching the reflection of crystal chandeliers trembling in their sockets. "Keep rolling," she whispered. "People need to see this." Guests shuffled, torn between discomfort and awe. One older man muttered to his wife, "I thought she was catering staff." The wife replied, "So did I." But this time there was shame in her tone. Naomi took a slow step forward. The guards moved aside instinctively, no command given. They could sense authority, the real kind. "Carmen," she said softly into the mic, "project the ownership certificate, please." Within seconds, the LED screens behind the stage flickered to life, displaying a digital document stamped and signed, "Transfer of ownership, Horizon Estate Holdings, Dr. Naomi Ellis." A collective gasp spread through the room. Someone clapped once, hesitant, almost accidental. Then another joined. The sound grew, uneven, confused. It wasn't applause yet, it was realization. Laura's hands shook. I didn't mean any harm. It was a simple mistake." Naomi's eyes met hers, calm as moonlight. Mistakes end when lessons begin. She turned to the audience, her voice steady and low. "I built this company from a one-bedroom apartment. I believe professionalism spoke louder than prejudice. Tonight reminded me, some people still need subtitles for respect." A few heads lowered. Others nodded slowly. The message landed where words often couldn't. Maya zoomed in on Naomi's face. The calm, the grace, the unflinching poise. "She's unreal," Maya whispered. "No, she's real. That's why it hurts," Naomi continued, her tone not rising but deepening. "You looked at me and saw service. You didn't ask what kind." Laura opened her mouth, but nothing came. Naomi walked closer, closing the space between them. Every step sounded like truth being measured. "I employ more than 3,000 people," she said quietly. "And I teach them one thing. Never assume power wears a label you can recognize." The crowd had stopped pretending to sip champagne. They were all listening now, guilty, mesmerized, or both. Maya's camera caught the moment Laura's eyes welled with humiliation and Naomi stayed steady. Neither cruel nor forgiving, just final. Then Naomi looked toward the guests again. "I'm not here to embarrass anyone. I'm here to remind you that the walls of this room don't decide who belongs inside them. People do. And tonight you all just saw how that can go wrong." Silence followed. Not the kind filled with tension, but the kind that holds reflection. From somewhere in the back, a young man said quietly, "She handled that with more grace than any of us deserve." Maya's phone vibrated, messages flooding in from viewers of her live stream. Unbelievable. Finally, someone calm with power. Justice with elegance. Naomi glanced once at the camera, not to perform, just to let the truth register on her face. "Power," she said softly, "doesn't shout, it reveals." And in that moment, the entire ballroom understood. The night wasn't about wealth or titles or appearances. It was about dignity, the kind you can't fake and can't deny once you've seen it. By the time the orchestra recovered its rhythm, it was already too late. The night had shifted. The air felt different, charged with consequence. Maya Brooks stood near the back of the room, her phone trembling in her hand. The live stream counter flashed, 2.3K watching, 4.8K, 9.1K. Comments flooded in faster than she could read them. Who is this woman? This is elegance in real time. She didn't even raise her voice. And they're the ones shaking. The video of our... Naomi's quiet reveal was already spreading through social media like a spark. Through dry air, hashtags formed in real time. The Black CEO, Horizon Gala, Grace and Power, and Naomi, unaware of the storm she had just unleashed. simply stood there. Still and composed, Laura Dean was pale, motionless beside the podium. Her clipboard trembled in her hand, the same one she'd used earlier to mark who belonged and who didn't. Now she couldn't even meet Naomi's eyes. Naomi spoke softly, almost to herself. Some lessons don't need to be taught twice. Then she turned toward the security guards, her voice steady. Gentlemen, thank you. You may stand down. They nodded, relieved, as if released from a spell. Carmen's voice came quietly through the earpiece. Ma'am, you're trending globally. Clip has over 10,000 shares already. Naomi exhaled, barely smiling. Let them watch. A donor approached hesitantly, an older man with a silver watch and the cautious tone of someone recalculating everything. Dr. Ellis, he said, if I may, I had no idea. You carry yourself remarkably. Naomi turned to him, her expression gracious but unmoved. You had every idea, she said. You just didn't recognize it until someone told you what to see. The man lowered his eyes, embarrassed. You're right. Across the room, whispers rippled. She owns the company. She's worth millions. And she was mistaken for waitstaff. Maya's phone buzzed again. A notification from her feed. Live clip reposted by Atlanta Times. She looked up, stunned. She's everywhere, she whispered. Naomi noticed the attention turning digital, guests discreetly glancing at their phones, the glow of screens painting their faces. She let it happen. Sometimes silence needed witnesses, and tonight, the internet had volunteered. Laura finally found her voice, shaky, desperate. Dr. Ellis, please, I was only enforcing policy. It wasn't personal. Naomi faced her fully now. Policy is what people hide behind when they don't want to face their prejudice. She paused, letting the words settle. But here's what's personal. The way you made me smaller before you even asked my name. The crowd was silent again. The kind of silence that no one wanted to break. Naomi looked to the stage, then to the microphone still glowing under the spotlight. Slowly she walked toward it. Every step was a statement. The click of her heels echoed louder than the music. She stopped at the podium and spoke, not to shame, not to boast, but to define the night. I came here quietly to observe. I ended up reminding this room, and maybe the world, that appearance is not permission. Power isn't what you wear, it's what you carry. Applause began, hesitant at first, then swelling. Some clapped out of respect, others out of guilt, but all of them clapped. Naomi waited for it to fade, then ended simply. Let tonight be the last time anyone mistakes composure for weakness, because one day the woman you dismiss might be the one signing your next contract. She stepped back, leaving the mic to the echo of her own words. Maya's live stream captured the final frame. Naomi standing beneath the chandeliers, head high, light cascading over her like quiet justice. Comments exploded, power without rage. She turned humiliation into history. This is what dignity looks like. The moment was no longer just an incident. It was a movement, and Naomi Ellis had just become its face. By morning, the world had changed. The video from the Horizon Gala wasn't just trending anymore. It was everywhere. Cable news replayed the clip on loop. The moment Laura Dean barked orders, the frozen second Naomi revealed ownership, the stunned silence that followed. Headlines spun the same truth in different tones. Gala manager mistakes black CEO for staff, learns the hard way. Power meets prejudice. Dr. Naomi Ellis redefines elegance. Inside Ellis Global's headquarters, phones rang nonstop. Reporters, donors, even rival CEOs wanted statements. Naomi walked through the glass doors of her office, calm as dawn. No entourage, no security. Just the quiet authority of someone who no longer needed introduction. Her assistant, Carmen, was waiting with 2 tablets and tired eyes. It's gone viral across 4 continents, she said, scrolling. CNN, BBC, Forbes, even Vogue, they're calling you the silent storm. Naomi smiled faintly. Let them call me what they need to. Carmen hesitated. There's something else. The event coordinator, Laura Dean. She emailed an apology through PR channels, but social media's already turned her name into a symbol. Naomi stopped at the window. Below, the city pulsed with morning traffic. Ordinary life moving fast, unaware of who owned half the skyline. She said quietly, Symbols cut both ways. Carmen nodded. The board wants to know your statement. They're expecting fire. Naomi turned from the glass. Then they'll get water. She sat, opened her laptop, and watched the clip again. Not out of vanity, but clarity. The way Laura's voice had cracked. The way the crowd's silence had transformed from complicity to conscience. The way Maya's hand had trembled while filming truth. Naomi paused the frame where she stood at the mic. The line of her jaw steady, her eyes unflinching. That still image had traveled farther than any marketing campaign she'd ever paid for. Draft a statement, she told Carmen. Keep it short. Carmen waited, stylus ready. Naomi spoke slowly. Last night reminded me that prejudice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's procedural. We don't fight it by shouting louder. We fight it by staying calm enough to be heard clearly. I forgive, but I do not forget. The work continues. Carmen looked up, moved. Simple, powerful. Naomi nodded. Upload it. But not to my company account, to my personal page. Done, Carmen said softly. Minutes later, the post went live. Within an hour, it had 500,000 reactions, 30,000 comments, and a single pinned response from Maya Brooks. She didn't raise her voice once. That's how I learned what power really sounds like. Naomi read it twice, then smiled. Find her, she said. I want to meet her. Carmen blinked. The intern? Yes, she saw what others ignored. That kind of courage deserves a career. Carmen smiled. Already on it. Outside, morning sunlight flooded through the glass. Naomi stood again, her reflection layered against the skyline. She thought of her younger self, the one who had been mistaken for staff, for smallness, for silence, and realized that every dismissal had been a rehearsal for this moment. Her phone buzzed once more. A message from the foundation director. The Horizon team has been suspended pending review. Do you want them terminated? Naomi typed slowly, then hit send no. Education before elimination. Let them attend the training they denied others. She locked her phone, her gaze calm and certain. Justice didn't need revenge. It needed memory. The next afternoon, Naomi's office was quiet. The kind of quiet that followed global noise. Outside, the city still buzzed with her name. But inside, time slowed to a calm rhythm of purpose. Carmen stepped in softly. She's here. Naomi looked up from her desk. Maya Brooks? Carmen nodded. Nervous. Says she's never been in a place like this before. Naomi smiled faintly. Neither had I once. The door opened. Maya stepped inside, clutching her phone like a shield. She was smaller in person, barely 22, still wearing the same simple blazer from the Gala, the one that looked borrowed, loved, and a little wrinkled from courage. Naomi stood. You can breathe. You're not in trouble. Maya let out a shaky laugh. I figured that out when I saw your assistant smile at me. Naomi gestured toward the window. Come. The view's better than the headlines. They stood side by side, overlooking the city. From here, the world didn't look divided, just layered. Maya finally spoke. I didn't mean to record. I mean, I did, but not for attention. It just felt wrong, what they were doing. Naomi nodded slowly. That instinct, to document, to bear witness, that's how truth survives when people try to bury it. Maya's eyes glistened. I never thought anyone would care about a video I took. Naomi turned to her. They didn't care about the video. They cared about what it revealed. You gave the world context. A pause stretched between them, gentle, full of understanding. Naomi poured 2 glasses of water, handed one to Maya. How long have you been at Horizon Foundation? 3 months, Maya said. Internship, unpaid. I just wanted experience. Guess I got more than I asked for. Naomi chuckled softly. Life has an unusual way of paying people early. They sat. The tension in Maya's shoulders eased as Naomi spoke again, quieter now. I watched your clip. You didn't shake because you were afraid. You shook because you knew it mattered. Maya swallowed, words catching in her throat. I saw myself in you, she admitted. People talk down to me all the time, and in stores, meetings, even elevators. And I just let it slide. But when they did it to you, I couldn't. Naomi smiled, that calm curve of gratitude that never reached arrogance. That's how empathy works, and it makes courage contagious. Silence lingered again, but this time it was warm. Carmen returned briefly, leaving a folder on the desk. Dr. Ellis, these are the internship contracts for review. Naomi glanced at the stack, then slid one toward Maya. Do you like working there? Maya hesitated. I like the idea of it. Then let's change the idea, Naomi said. If you're willing, I'd like you to join my team at Ellis Global. Full salary, mentorship, and a future that doesn't apologize for itself. Maya froze, eyes wide. You're serious? Completely, Naomi said. You earned this by doing what others wouldn't, telling the truth when it was inconvenient. Maya's voice trembled. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Naomi replied. Then promise me something. Anything. When you have power, Naomi said, use it to make people feel seen before they have to prove they exist. Maya nodded, tears catching the light. I will, Naomi smiled, looking out the window again. Good, because this story isn't over. It's just the part where someone else starts writing. Maya followed her gaze to the skyline, wide, alive, and suddenly possible. In the reflection, two women stood side by side, one seasoned, one just beginning, both defined by what they refused to ignore. Outside, the city kept moving. But inside that office, history had just passed its torch, quietly, gracefully, and on time. The week that followed felt heavier than victory. Naomi Ellis had become the face of calm defiance, her image plastered across magazines, screens, and think pieces that dissected every blink. Every word she had spoken that night. Some called her a symbol of grace under fire. Others accused her of engineering the moment. Naomi ignored both. Symbols weren't goals. They were consequences. Inside Ellis Global's boardroom, a dozen executives sat around the long mahogany table, each one holding a copy of the Financial Herald front page. The CEO who stayed silent and made the world listen. The silence in the room was reverent, uneasy. Dr. Ellis began. Victor Lane, head of corporate communications. We've had over 8,000 new partnership inquiries this week. Some genuine, some opportunistic. Naomi folded her hands. That's expected. When the world sees a mirror, half will look at their reflection. The rest will check their hair. Nervous laughter. She wasn't joking, and yet the line diffused the tension anyway. Another board member leaned forward. There's growing pressure to address the incident formally. The Horizon Foundation's donors are reconsidering their contracts. They're asking whether we intend to terminate their event management team. Naomi's expression didn't change. We already suspended them. Yes, the man said. But the public wants consequences. Naomi met his gaze. The public also wanted crucifixions before they invented courts. We'll stay with education. The goal isn't punishment, it's prevention. Carmen, seated to Naomi's right, smiled faintly. She'd heard this tone before, calm, sharp, deliberate. The same tone that turned chaos into order. Naomi continued, We're not chasing revenge. We're building protocol. From now on, every partner company under our umbrella will receive training in racial and ethical bias response. No exceptions, including ours. One of the older board members frowned. You want our executives to take it too? Yes, Naomi said, starting with me. A pause. Then slow, reluctant nods around the table. Victor exhaled. Understood. Naomi stood, walked toward the window overlooking the skyline. The city looked smaller from up here, but not less complicated. Change isn't a speech, she said quietly. It's a system. Carmen watched her, recognizing the exhaustion behind that composure. Naomi wasn't just fighting perception anymore, she was carrying it. Dr. Ellis, Carmen said softly, there's one more thing. Naomi turned. The media wants an exclusive interview. Prime View, Sunday night. They want to talk about power, race, and leadership. Naomi considered it for a long moment. Do they want my opinion or my optics? They said your story could inspire millions. Naomi smiled faintly. Stories don't inspire until the world's ready to listen. Schedule it anyway. She walked back to her seat, her steps measured. If we don't control the narrative, someone else will, and they'll sell it back to us as inspiration instead of instruction. Victor scribbled notes. Message focus? Naomi looked him dead in the eye. Dignity, not drama. Justice, not spectacle. The words landed like commandments. The meeting ended in silence. Chairs scraped. Papers rustled. People left changed, though few understood how deeply. When the door finally closed, Naomi leaned against the table, eyes closed for a brief second. The city outside buzzed with her name, Dr. Naomi Ellis, the CEO who turned humiliation into history. Carmen approached quietly. "You okay?" Naomi smiled without opening her eyes. "I'm fine, just remembering that visibility is a heavier crown than power." Carmen hesitated. "Worth wearing?" Naomi opened her eyes, calm and certain. "Only if I use it to build a world where no one else needs it." Outside, the sun hit the mirrored glass of the building. And for a moment, the whole skyline looked like it was reflecting her resolve. The studio lights were blinding. They always were. But Naomi Ellis had faced harsher lights before. Boardrooms full of disbelief. Gala halls thick with entitlement. Compared to those, the cameras felt almost kind. A producer adjusted her microphone. "You'll be live in 90 seconds, Dr. Ellis. Just relax and speak naturally." Naomi smiled faintly. "That's the only way I know how." Across from her sat the host. Polite smile, practiced posture, curiosity sharpened like a scalpel. On the monitor behind them, the headline glowed, "Power, Race, and Grace. A conversation with Dr. Naomi Ellis." The countdown began. 5, 4, 3. "Good evening," the host began smoothly. "Tonight we're joined by the woman whose quiet strength at the Horizon Gala captured the world's attention. Dr. Naomi Ellis, thank you for being here." "Thank you for inviting me," she said. Her voice was soft, steady, threaded with composure. "Millions watched that clip," the host continued. "Some call it an act of elegance. Others call it a masterclass in restraint. But what were you thinking in that moment, when you were being mistaken for staff?" Naomi looked at him for a long moment before answering. "Honestly, I was thinking how familiar it felt." The studio went still. She continued. "Every time I walk into a room where I'm not expected, someone assumes I'm there to serve, not to lead. I've stopped taking it personally, but I've never stopped noticing." The host leaned in. "And yet, you never raised your voice." "I didn't need to," Naomi said simply. "The truth is loud enough when you speak it with clarity." A brief silence, not awkward but reverent. The host smiled. "Some say you changed the conversation about power that night." Naomi shook her head slightly. "I didn't change it. I just exposed how little it had changed." He hesitated. "Do you forgive the woman who confronted you?" Naomi exhaled, measured. "Forgiveness isn't the hard part. Forgetting is, because if I forget, it happens to someone else who won't have a camera nearby." A murmur of agreement rose from the studio audience. The host pressed on. "You're now considered a symbol, for dignity, for representation. Do you embrace that role?" Naomi smiled gently. "Symbols are fragile things. People worship them until they need a new one. I don't want to be a symbol. I want to be a system, one that outlives the noise." The audience fell silent again, but it wasn't emptiness. It was awe. The host nodded. "So what does justice mean to you, Dr. Ellis?" Naomi's eyes softened. "Justice means correction without cruelty. It means changing the rules quietly so that next time silence doesn't cost anyone their place." He paused, visibly moved. "That's beautiful." "It's necessary," Naomi replied, a beat. Then the host smiled. "Last question. If you could speak directly to that young woman watching this, the one who's been overlooked, underestimated, what would you say?" Naomi leaned slightly toward the camera, her gaze unwavering. "I tell her she's not invisible. The world just hasn't adjusted its lens yet. Keep showing up. Keep standing still when they expect you to shrink. Stillness isn't weakness, and it's focus." Applause filled the room. Not loud but genuine. The host closed the segment. Dr. Naomi Ellis. Proof that power doesn't always raise its voice. The cameras faded to black. The lights cooled. Naomi sat there for a moment, breathing quietly, feeling the calm after truth. Carmen appeared from the wings with a soft smile. "You did it again," Naomi smiled back. "No, we did. All of us who stayed quiet until the world finally heard silence for what it really was. Strength." Outside the studio, night settled over the city, steady, luminous, and listening. The morning after the interview, the world didn't wake up quietly. News anchors quoted Naomi Ellis like scripture. Clips of her calm defiance flooded feeds, layered with captions. "Stillness is focus. Justice means correction without cruelty." The internet, so often quick to forget, refused to move on this time. Students shared her words on classroom walls. Corporate leaders replayed her interview during Monday meetings. A teacher in Detroit told her students, "Listen to her tone, that's how you win without shouting." Within 72 hours, hashtags became initiatives. The Ellis Standard trended across LinkedIn, a movement calling for racial equity training and ethical audits in corporate spaces. An Ivy League business school announced a seminar titled The Ellis Model, Dignity and Leadership. A young woman from Johannesburg posted a video in her work uniform, whispering into her phone, "I stood taller today because she showed me how." Naomi watched it all from her office. Headlines, reactions, waves of gratitude and reflection. But she didn't smile, not yet. Change, she knew, wasn't measured by applause, but only by repetition. Carmen entered quietly, holding a thick folder. "You should see this." Inside were letters, hundreds of them. Printed emails, handwritten notes, screenshots of messages from strangers around the world. One caught Naomi's eye. "Dr. Ellis, I was escorted out of a client meeting last year because they thought I was the delivery driver. I never spoke about it until I saw you. Now I'm teaching my team how not to repeat that mistake." Naomi closed the folder, her throat tight. "These are heavy," she said. "They're gratitude," Carmen replied. "The good kind." Naomi nodded, gaze distant. "Gratitude fades. Systems don't." That afternoon, she stood before her executive team in the same boardroom where she'd once faced doubt. The screens behind her displayed a new headline. EGP Foundation launches Eyes Open Initiative, Diversity Training for Corporate Leaders. "This isn't a PR move," Naomi said firmly. "This is a blueprint. We start with our own partners, then expand globally. Not workshops, transformations. I want people to feel seen before they ask for proof." Victor Lane smiled. "The world's already calling it the Ellis effect." Naomi shook her head. "Effects fade. Habits last. Let's build habits." After the meeting, she found herself alone again, watching the city from the window. Below, cameras still waited outside her building. But their lenses didn't intimidate her anymore. They reminded her of Maya Brooks, the young intern who had turned witnessing into history. Carmen's voice came softly from the doorway. "Maya just called. She's settling into her new role. Says she wants to design training programs for the foundation." Naomi turned, smiling fully for the first time in days. "Of course she does. The world needs her version of courage." Carmen hesitated, then asked, "Do you ever get tired of being the one who has to lead change?" Naomi thought for a moment. "Change doesn't need a hero," she said. "It needs consistency. And I'm consistent." The phone on her desk buzzed. Another interview request, another headline waiting to be written. She ignored it. Instead, she opened the folder of letters again, one by one tracing the inked gratitude with her fingertips. Outside, the city pulsed and brighter, wider, somehow softer. A driver parked his car, stepped out, and nodded respectfully at the security guard. Two women laughed on the sidewalk, one saying, "Did you see that, CEO?" That's how it's done. Small changes, quiet ones, the kind Naomi believed in. She looked out at the horizon where the skyline met the morning haze and whispered to herself, "Grace travels faster than anger." That's how you know it's working. A year later, the Horizon estate looked different, not grander, wiser. The marble still gleamed. The chandeliers still glowed, but something had changed in the air. The staff walked taller. The tone of every good evening carried respect instead of routine. Tonight wasn't another gala. It was a commemoration. 1 year since the night the world learned a new definition of power. Naomi Ellis arrived quietly, as she always did. No press, no spotlight. Just a long black coat over an elegant gown, her stride calm and deliberate. The same doorman who once ignored her now greeted her with a small, proud smile. "Welcome back, Dr. Ellis," Naomi returned the smile. "Good to be home." Inside, the hall buzzed with guests, executives, students, community leaders, all gathered for the first Ellis Foundation Summit. On the wall hung a single banner, "Eyes Open, Building Systems That See Everyone." Carmen approached with her ever-present tablet. "Everything's set. Maya's already here." She insisted on rehearsing the intern's presentation twice. Naomi chuckled softly. Of course she did. She looked around the room, not at the wealth, but at the balance. Every table mixed status and story. CEOs next to janitors, students beside investors. It wasn't a crowd. It was a mirror. Then, from the stage, Maya's voice filled the hall. She stood confidently, speaking about workplace empathy and inclusive leadership. Power, she said, isn't how many people listen to you. It's how safe people feel when they do. Applause erupted. Naomi felt something inside her settle. Not pride, but peace. The torch had been passed and it was burning brighter than before. When Maya stepped down, she spotted Naomi across the room and walked over, smiling wide. I still can't believe this is real, she said. Naomi touched her shoulder. It's real because you helped make it so. Maya laughed. I just pressed record. You pressed record on history, Naomi replied. They stood together as a photographer approached. Ladies, may I? Naomi nodded. The flash went off once and simple, timeless. No power poses, no stage lights. Just two women who had rewritten what dignity looked like. Later, when the crowd thinned, Naomi wandered back toward the corner where it had all begun, the very spot she'd been mistaken for staff a year ago. She paused there, letting the memories rise but not sting. The hum of conversation behind her faded. Only the soft echo of a distant piano remained. Carmen joined her quietly. Funny being back here, isn't it? Naomi smiled. It's poetic. Full circle. You ever wish that night hadn't happened? Naomi looked up at the chandelier, the same one that had witnessed both humiliation and redemption. No, she said softly, because without the darkness no one would have noticed the light. They stood together in silence. A waiter passed by, young, nervous, kind, and nodded respectfully. Naomi smiled at him, genuine and warm. He straightened his posture, not out of fear, but admiration. That, Naomi whispered, is what change feels like. Invisible until it isn't. Carmen exhaled. You've done it, Naomi. You changed things. Naomi shook her head. I just reminded the world what it already knew, that respect isn't charity, it's currency. She turned toward the doors as applause rose again from the main hall. Maya was on stage announcing the next generation of Ellis Fellows, students from every background, funded to learn leadership through empathy. Naomi smiled, a single tear glinting in the chandelier's light. Her story had started with an insult. It ended with an invitation for everyone to stand taller. She whispered one last line to herself as she stepped out into the night air. Power spoken softly lasts the longest. The doors closed behind her. The music carried on. And for the first time the world kept listening, without needing to be reminded who she was.